Hey there. Welcome to From Inside My Book Fort. Today I'm going to read a passage from Carlos Ruiz Zafon, The Shadow of the Wind, which was the first in his The Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. I still remember the day my father took me to the Cemetery of Forgotten Books for the first time. It was the early summer of 1945, and we walked through the streets of Barcelona trapped beneath ashen skies as dawn poured over Rambla de Santa Monica in a wreath of liquid copper. "Daniel, you mustn't tell anyone what you're about to see today," my father warned. "Not even your friend Tomas. No one. Not even Mommy?" My father sighed, hiding behind that sad smile that followed him like a shadow through life. "Oh, of course you can tell her," he answered, heavy-hearted. "We keep no secrets from her. You can tell her everything." Shortly after the Civil War, an outbreak of cholera had taken my mother away. We buried her on my 4th birthday. I can only recall that it rained all day and all night, and that when I asked my father whether heaven was crying, he couldn't bring himself to reply. 6 years later, my mother's absence remained in the air around us, a deafening silence that had not yet learned to stifle with words. My father and I lived in a modest apartment on Calle Santa Ana, a stone's throw from the church square. The apartment was directly above the bookshop, a legacy from my grandfather that specialized in rare collector's editions and second-hand books, an enchanted bazaar, which my father hoped would one day be mine. I was raised among books, making invisible friends in pages that seemed cast from dust, and whose smell I carry on my hands to this day. As a child, I learned to fall asleep talking to my mother in the darkness of my bedroom, telling her about the day's events, my adventures at school, and the things I had been taught. I couldn't hear her voice or feel her touch, but her radiance and her warmth haunted every corner of our home, and I believed, with the innocence of those who can still count their age on their 10 fingers, that if I closed my eyes and spoke to her, she would be able to hear me wherever she was. Sometimes my father would listen to me from the dining room, crying in silence. On that June morning, I woke up screaming at first light. My heart was pounding in my chest as if I feared that my soul wanted to carve its way out and run off down the stairs. My father hurried into my room and held me in his arms, trying to calm me. "I can't remember her face. I can't remember Mommy's face," I muttered, breathless. My father held me tight. "Don't worry, Daniel. I will remember for both of us." We looked at each other in the half-light, searching for words that didn't exist. For the first time, I realized my father was growing old. He stood up and drew the curtains to let in the pale glint of dawn. "Come on, Daniel. Get dressed. I want to show you something." "Now? At 5 o'clock in the morning?" "Some things can only be seen in the shadows," my father said, flashing a mysterious smile, probably borrowed from the pages of one of his worn Alexander Dumas romances. Night watchmen still lingered in the misty streets when we stepped out the front door. The lamps along the Rambla sketched an avenue of vapor that faded as the city began to wake. When we reached Calle Arco del Teatro, we continued through its arch toward the Ravel Quarter, entering a vault of blue haze. I followed my father through that narrow lane, more of a scar than a street, until the gleam of the Ramblas faded behind us. The brightness of dawn filtered down from balconies and cornices in streaks of slanting light that dissolved before touching the ground. At last my father stopped in front of a large door of carved wood, blackened by time and humidity. Before us loomed what to my eyes seemed the carcass of a palace, a place of echoes and shadows. Daniel, again, you must not tell anyone what you're about to see today.